Most men over 50 spend hours searching for complex solutions, wasting fortunes on exams, treatments, and medications. But there's a tiny region in your body about the size of a coin that, when pressed correctly for just 60 seconds, can unlock something you thought you'd lost forever. And the most impressive part is that almost no one knows this area exists. I'm Dr. Natália Castro, and I'm going to show you exactly what's happening. Before revealing where this exact point is, you need to understand something that will completely change how you view this problem. Because the explanation you've received so far is probably wrong. Thousands of men wake up every morning with the feeling that something essential has simply disappeared, and when that happens, the first thing that comes to mind is always the same: testosterone. They schedule appointments, request blood tests, anxiously await the results, and then comes the shock. The levels are completely normal. Nothing out of place, no obvious medical explanation. And it's exactly at that moment that frustration turns into silent despair. Because if it's not testosterone, then what the hell's going on? Here's the truth that changes everything. The problem isn't in your hormones, it's in how your body is communicating with itself. Think of it this way: your body still has everything it needs to function perfectly. The desire exists, the biology is intact, the hormones are present, but there's an invisible interference blocking the signals before they even reach their final destination. It's like having a cell phone with a full battery but no signal. The device works, but the call doesn't go through. And this interference has a very specific origin that's happening inside your pelvis right now. Every day you spend hours sitting in the car, at the office, on the living room couch, and while you're there completely unaware, something silent is happening. The deep muscles in your pelvis begin to contract slowly, without pain, without symptoms, without any warning signs, and they press exactly on the nerves and blood vessels, responsible for everything you need for a healthy, intimate life. Over months and years, these muscles stop relaxing. They literally forget how to release. They become a permanent blockage, a tight knot that prevents nerve signals from arriving clearly and blood from flowing with the necessary pressure. And here's what scares me: this process didn't start last week. It's been happening for decades, building up silently day after day without you noticing. And every day that passes without reversal, the blockage gets denser, the signals get weaker, the response gets slower, until the moment comes when you wake up and realize things have changed. And then comes that question every man asks himself in silence, afraid of the answer. Is this permanent? Is there no way back? The answer is no, definitely not. But to understand how to undo it, you need to know the vicious cycle that's feeding itself inside your body right now. Because it's not just muscle tension, it's a combination of factors that work together, worsening each other, creating a domino effect that accelerates on its own if you don't intervene now. After 50, an essential molecule called nitric oxide starts to decrease naturally in your body. This substance is the key that opens blood vessels. Without it in adequate amounts, the small arteries that feed the intimate area can't expand as they should. It's like trying to inflate a balloon with a crumpled mouth. The air tries to get in, but it never fills completely. And there's something else happening at the same time. Tiny microscopic plaques start depositing on the inner walls of these vessels. It's not severe enough to be called cardiovascular disease, but it's enough to drastically reduce the pressure and firmness you need. Meanwhile, the nerves responsible for transmitting arousal signals start to slow down. They don't stop, they just take longer to fire. And when they do, The signal arrives weaker, more confused, more vulnerable to any mental distraction. Now add it all up, tense muscles compressing nerves, vessels that don't open properly, slow circulation, weak nerve signals. And there's one factor that amplifies everything exponentially, but almost no one mentions it: stress. When you're stressed, your body automatically activates survival mode. And in that mode, the last priority is intimacy. The body diverts all blood flow to the large muscles, the heart, the lungs. The intimate area ends up last in line. That's why even when you're in the right moment with the right person, when it should work perfectly, the body just doesn't cooperate. It spent the whole day on high alert and can't switch it off quickly. But here's what changed for hundreds of men who came through my office. There's a way to teach the body to deactivate this alert mode, and it all starts in a place that traditional medicine rarely mentions. Comment below where you're watching from, because I see men from all over Brazil facing exactly this and thinking they're alone. So, where is this specific point? Between the base of the scrotum and the posterior opening, there's a small area called the perineum. Most men have never heard of it. Some know the name but never gave it real importance. What they don't know is that this tiny region is the command center for everything related to intimate function. Through there passes a nerve called the pudendal nerve. It's the one that sends signals to the brain. Is everything ready? You can start. Small arteries also pass through there, responsible for carrying oxygenated blood to the base of the penis. And there's more. A complex network of muscles that controls how much blood enters and how long it stays inside. Now imagine this situation. These nerves, these arteries, these muscles all compressed for years, decades in fact, and no one ever taught you that you can release this compression. When you apply the correct and controlled pressure to this specific point, something immediate starts to happen. The muscles relax, the vessels open, the nerve awakens. Many men describe feeling a warmth spreading through the pelvis. Others feel a sensation of fullness, of weight. It's not an erection, it's the body remembering how to function. But there's a critical mistake that most make, and this mistake completely nullifies the results before they even appear. Before showing you the exact technique, you need to understand why it works. Because if you don't understand the logic, you'll do it wrong. You'll press too hard or in the wrong place. You'll give up after 2 days thinking it doesn't work. The pelvic floor is a set of muscles that supports all the organs in the pelvis: bladder, intestines, prostate, everything. These muscles need to be strong enough to support, but relaxed enough to allow blood to flow freely. The big problem is that most men over 50 have a chronically contracted pelvic floor. It's not weak, it's tense. And chronic tension is just as harmful as weakness. When these muscles are constantly contracted, they act like a tourniquet around the blood vessels. Blood tries to enter but encounters constant resistance. And the worst part is that this tension doesn't cause pain, no visible symptoms, until you try to be intimate and discover the body isn't cooperating. So what happens when you massage this point? First, you send a direct signal to the brain saying, "It's safe to relax here." The parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for relaxation and arousal, starts to dominate. The sympathetic nervous system, responsible for fight or flight, starts to calm down. Second, you're physically undoing the muscle tension, like when you massage a knot in your back and feel it unravel. Third, you're reactivating blood flow to the area. Fresh, oxygen-rich blood finally reaching where it's been blocked for years. But here's the fatal mistake that destroys results for 90% of men. They find the point, press hard for a few seconds, feel nothing immediate, and abandon it. The technique matters infinitely more than the location, because you're not forcing anything. You're convincing the body to release something it's been holding for decades. And that requires patience, conscious breathing, and mental presence. First, sit on a firm chair. It can't be a soft couch, not a recliner. It needs to be a surface that provides solid support to the skin. A common dining chair works perfectly. If you try to do this sunk into a soft sofa, the pressure is wrong and you can't access the correct point. Second, use 2 fingers or a small massage ball. I recommend starting with fingers because you have total control over the applied pressure. Locate the point between the base of the scrotum and the posterior opening. It's approximately in the middle of that distance. You'll feel a slight depression there, a space between the muscles. You don't need to dig deep. You don't need excessive force. You'll feel sensitivity in that area. That's completely normal. It's tension built up over years. Third step, and this is the most critical. Apply slow, constant pressure. It's not a quick touch, not pulsating pressure. It's firm, gentle, and constant. And here's the part that most completely ignore. Breathe deeply through the abdomen, letting your belly expand when you inhale and contract when you exhale. This breathing takes the body out of alert state and into deep relaxation. It's in this state that arousal happens naturally. If you do the massage while breathing fast and shallow through the chest, it won't work. The body will keep thinking it's in danger. Maintain the pressure for 10 to 15 seconds. Breathe slowly, 3 seconds inhaling, 3 seconds exhaling, then make very slow circular movements, as if you're melting a knot of hot wax. It's not a quick massage, it's slow circular pressure, almost meditative. Continue for a total of 60 seconds, without rushing, without exaggerated force, just allowing the area to free itself. What happens physiologically in that moment is impressive. The pelvic floor relaxes, the vessels dilate, fresh oxygenated blood starts flowing where it needs to go. The nerve becomes more responsive. In a few minutes, many men feel a clear change. It's not magic, it's anatomy being unlocked. Some feel warmth, others feel weight or fullness in the region. Some feel tingling as if the area is waking up after being dormant for a long time. All of this is a positive sign. It means blood is circulating again. It means nerves are transmitting clear signals again. But there's an important detail. If you feel sharp pain, stop immediately. This shouldn't hurt. It might be sensitive, it might be uncomfortable in the first few days, but it should never be intense pain. If you feel pain, you're pressing too hard or in the wrong place. And there's something that surprises many men. In the first few days, sensitivity might even increase a bit. That doesn't mean it's worsening. It means you're finally giving attention to an area neglected for decades. It's like when you start stretching a shortened muscle. At first it complains, but after a few days it relaxes completely. And then you realize how tense it was before. But here's the real problem, and this problem separates the men who get lasting results from those who feel initial improvement and then return to square one. Even doing the technique perfectly, there are daily habits that might be nullifying all the benefits before they even consolidate. And when you understand these invisible saboteurs, everything makes sense because this 1-minute massage only reaches its maximum potential when the rest of your day isn't working against you. The first saboteur is obvious, but no one talks about it with brutal clarity. Sitting too long. I'm not talking about 1 or 2 hours. I'm talking about spending 8, 10, 12 hours a day sitting in traffic, at the office, on the couch. This doesn't just make the pelvic floor tense. It teaches it to remain tense as a permanent default. Even when you stand up, the muscles stay contracted because that's become their normal state. It's like squeezing a hose while trying to water the garden. The water never reaches where it should, and there's a detail almost no one notices. It's not just the time sitting, it's the posture. If you sit with your pelvis tilted back, sunk into the sofa or chair, you're compressing the perineum directly against the surface. It's like literally sitting on your own hose for 8 hours a day, every day, for years. And then you wonder why blood flow isn't working well. Second saboteur, the way you breathe. Most men over 50 breathe high in the chest, short, shallow, accelerated breaths. This keeps the body in a constant state of low alert. And when the body is on alert, the last thing it wants is to prepare for intimacy. It wants to survive. The pelvic floor tightens, vessels close. The brain diverts energy away from the intimate area. Breathing through the abdomen for just 2 minutes a day can reverse this completely, but it has to be intentional. It's not automatic breathing. It's you placing your hand on your belly and feeling it expand when you inhale. Third saboteur, posture, pelvis tilted forward, shoulders slumped, spine curved. This constantly compresses the pelvic nerves. Over time, the body adapts to this compression, and arousal signals become slower, weaker, more inconsistent. Posture affects absolutely everything. It affects circulation, nerves, even hormone production. Because when you're hunched over, compressing the abdomen, internal organs get squeezed, and squeezed organs don't function at maximum efficiency. Fourth saboteur, chronic stress. And here, I'm not talking about acute stress, that momentary tension. I'm talking about stress that's become your normal state, your daily default. High cortisol doesn't just affect mood, it reduces nitric oxide production, decreases nerve sensitivity, and keeps the body in a state where intimate performance becomes practically impossible. The body can't be in fight mode and intimacy mode at the same time. They're opposing systems. One automatically shuts off the other. And if you live in constant stress, intimacy mode never fully activates. And there's one more that no one imagines: hydration. When you drink too little water, blood literally becomes thicker, harder to circulate, less efficient at carrying oxygen. And oxygen is absolutely essential for erectile function. Without enough oxygen, erectile tissue can't expand fully. It becomes less firm, less responsive, less sensitive. Alcohol, especially at night, worsens all this exponentially. It interferes with circulation, disrupts nerve communication, and causes that morning fatigue many men attribute to age, but which is actually dehydration and inflammation. The good news is that these saboteurs are totally reversible. Small changes create big accumulated effects. Get up and walk for 5 minutes every hour. This isn't intense exercise, it's just movement, just enough to loosen the pelvis. Practice abdominal breathing while driving or before bed. 3 minutes already make a measurable difference. Stretch your hip flexors for 60 seconds a day. These are the muscles at the front of the thigh that shorten from so much sitting. When they shorten, they pull the pelvis, misaligning everything. Drink an extra glass of water between meals. It doesn't have to be liters, just enough to keep blood fluid. Reduce alcohol at night, especially distilled drinks. None of this requires absurd effort, but each small action removes a layer of resistance from the system you're trying to recover. And when you remove these resistances, the massage you learned becomes exponentially more effective. And this is where I need to tell you about something that can dramatically accelerate this whole process. Because while you're doing the massage and adjusting these habits, there are invisible mistakes that most men over 60 make without the slightest idea. Mistakes that silently damage the prostate and compromise intimate function long before any symptoms appear. Mistakes that seem harmless but accumulate microscopic damage over the years. I created a complete material called The Medical Guide to Avoid Mistakes that damage the prostate after 60. In it, I explain the 4 most common mistakes men make thinking they're taking care of themselves, but which are actually worsening the situation without them knowing. The link is pinned in the comments below. Grab it now while it's still available because this complements everything you're learning here. Back to what really matters. You're not broken. Your body isn't failing irreversibly, it's just stuck in old patterns. Patterns created over decades of habits you didn't even realize were affecting you. And these patterns can be rewritten much faster than you imagine right now. When you understand what's blocking your progress and start removing these obstacles systematically, the massage you learned becomes exponentially more effective. It's not a magical instant solution. It's a systematic scientific solution. It's you working with your body instead of against it. And here's what I want every man over 50 to hear clearly. Masculinity isn't defined by temporary difficulties. Every man goes through phases where the body seems slower, more tired, less responsive. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. And the truth no one tells you is that the body can improve dramatically at any age. I've seen this happen hundreds of times in my office. I've seen men in their 50s, 60s, 70s recover potency, energy, and confidence simply by giving the body small, consistent signals of care. This simple massage routine isn't a sign of desperation. It's a sign that you're choosing to reconnect with yourself. It's a sign that you're not passively accepting decline. You're doing something concrete about it. And that requires real courage. It requires willingness to look at your own body without shame. It requires humility to recognize you need help and persistence to continue even when results don't show up on the first day. I have seen hundreds of men enter my office, ashamed, convinced it was permanent and irreversible, and leave weeks later with a confidence they thought they'd lost forever. Not because of expensive medications, not because of complex, invasive procedures, but because they learned to reconnect with their own body in a way no one had ever taught them before. Because no one teaches men to care for this specific area. No one talks about the male pelvic floor in routine checkups. No one explains that there's preventive maintenance to be done. And so men reach 50, 60 years old without ever giving it conscious attention, and they wonder why things have changed so drastically. You deserve to feel strong, you deserve to feel desired, you deserve to enjoy intimacy without constant fear or hesitation. And the best part is that it's not too late. No matter how long you've been feeling this, no matter how many years you've spent ignoring the subtle signs, your body responds quickly to the right stimuli when applied consistently and intelligently. Consistency creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence, and confidence creates results that feed themselves in a positive cycle. Because here's what happens when you start the massage and feel that first real improvement, that first clear sign that the body is responding, it changes something deep in your mind. You stop feeling powerless against aging. You stop thinking you're an inevitable victim of time. You start realizing you have real control over your own body. And that realization changes absolutely everything. It changes how you relate to your own body. It changes how you feel about intimacy. It even changes how you present yourself to the world. Your posture, your confidence. You're much closer to recovering your strength than you imagine right now. Much closer. Because the difference between where you are now and where you want to be isn't a huge, insurmountable distance. It's just a blockage, a muscular, nervous, circulatory blockage. And that blockage can be removed systematically. You've just learned exactly how. Now, it's just a matter of applying it with patience, consistency, and the absolute certainty that the body responds when you give it what it needs. If this kind of content really helps you, subscribe to the channel because here we talk about what almost no one explains with real medical clarity. My goal is to give men over 50 the practical tools, scientific knowledge, and confidence needed to recover energy, performance, and longevity. At the beginning of this video, I told you there was a point most men never imagine and that it can restore something essential. Now you understand exactly why, and more importantly, you know how to activate it correctly.